Avalaunch transmission starts now.
Hey.
Okay, I think we're good to go.
Sounds good.
Can you guys hear me okay?
Yeah, sounds good. Hey, Mark.
Okay, cool. All right, great. Just getting a little bit of a lag here, but I'm sure it will resolve. But anyway, welcome everyone to the Avalaunch channel. Today we are joined by Josh Skloot and Adam Zek, COO and CEO, co-founders of MyStandard, which is a really interesting project. We have been talking to these guys for some time now, and really quite taken, I guess, by the sort of weight and substance of what they're doing. And so we're happy to talk about it here today. Just to give you kind of people who are listening a brief preview of what we'll be getting into. You know, MyStandard is a project that seems to do a couple of specific things, but also there's I think a broader context about some broader implications to what the technology achieves. And these are things around recruitment, but also privacy and data ownership, and big themes, big topics, kind of sort of lurking under the surface. And I think that's a really, really cool part about the project. And also that it bridges, I think, some more traditional worlds with Web3, which is what we like to see. And it does it in smart ways that actually make sense. And that I think a user journey can sort of actually facilitate adoption through that. But before we go through all that stuff, maybe you guys could just kind of one at a time, whoever wants to go first, I guess, so we don't talk over each other. Adam, I'll go with you. Just a little bit about your background, who you are, the standard stuff.
Yeah. Great. So I started this company with Josh 4 years ago, but prior to that, I was in talent acquisition consulting for 13 years. And so I think one of the big things to think about when you're trying to understand this company is that we're trying to solve a problem with Web3. And I was actually running into a problem with clients in talent acquisition that was not solvable with what tech was available and how things were set up. So the solution to the problem I encountered was Web3, was crypto, was data ownership, and all the things that we're getting to. We didn't just say, well, let's make a Web3 company and then find the problem we're fixing later on. And so that's one of the kind of unique things about what we're doing is it's kind of like ingrained in something I know the market needs. And then I was, at the same time as doing that, becoming a crypto enthusiast or blockchain investor or gambler, depending on your perspective and what you do in the space. And I was a Chainlink Marine from day one. So that's really what got me into the space. I got in Chainlink relatively early. I've held and only grown my stack since then. It's the only crypto that ever made sense to me. I understand their business model, I understand their flywheel, and I'm so happy that we're building with them. That's like one of the best parts about this is like my idol. I get to maybe Sergey someday or something. But I really am really happy that things have landed the way they have. And then I threw out a tweet to my followers, and that's how I met Josh. It's like, hey, I have some ideas for talent acquisition that could solve some problems. Anybody else thinking of these things? And he got into my DMs. I answered the call, and then he actually lived near me, and we talked. And his background's awesome for what we're trying to do here.
Yeah,
which I'll let him introduce himself.
Very cool. Thanks.
Thank you. Yeah, Josh Skloot. I've been in talent acquisition like 20 years. I've had my own recruiting agency. I've worked in-house. I've worked on the agency side. I've built talent acquisition functions and teams from scratch. And what we were always trying, what I've always wanted to do, I'm also a blockchain enthusiast. Obviously, I was in crypto as well. And I always saw that there was a potential with the way blockchain works to make a talent acquisition solution that recruiters would use. We all know the state of talent acquisition is not good. It's broken. There are so many problems, which we'll get into in this call with LinkedIn and all the other services. I felt like there was an opportunity to make a complete transition. And so when I connected with Adam, we were of the same mindset. Like, why don't we create a solution that helps both recruiters and users and really flips the script on how things are done? And I think that's what we've built. That's what we've created here.
And so how long was it from when you guys first connected to let's just say today? Like, how long have you two been working together?
It's about 4 years and 4 years and 2 months or something like that.
Yeah.
Very cool. Did you ever anticipate that it would sort of take that long? Did you have any expectations around it, or you just kind of got busy and see where it went?
I mean, everything's different than I expected, and I mean, this is the craziest roller coaster that either of us have ever thought we'd been on. It's taken us to locations we never thought we'd go to. I spoke at the Buenos Aires Avalaunch Summit, which you on our link tree or whatever, and you know, like I never thought that I'd be, you know, you don't think of that when we just had a cool idea. Let's talk about it, and then and the way it kind of happened is Josh knew somebody at the CFO of Avalaunch. He was like connected to him from a previous attempt to hire him at his company, his previous company. Told that guy about our product, and he was like, that sounds kind of unique and different, and I've never heard that before. He introduced us to Lydia over at Avalaunch. She was like, yeah, this sounds pretty cool. We'll get back to you. And then like 3 months later, she's like, all right, so our investors want us to create some like big activity on the platform, get some more things built on there. And we're actually, you know, you're one of the things that we thought of to come up. And, you know, they were our first check. And then once that became very real, like, oh, people want to invest in this idea. Like, let's, you know, really go down the rabbit hole of it. And then we were able to raise a lot of capital quickly. And then we've been on, you know, ever since then, just all in on MyStandard. But the product has changed too. I mean, when we first doing this, it was like a zero knowledge proof platform to make people match with jobs. That's all it was. And then there was a layer that got added onto it where companies get rewarded in our token, which equals new data requests, so that we can incentivize companies to like validate information on people and make people's profiles deeper and the network stronger, and they get free candidate requests for doing that. Another layer, and then all of a sudden it was like Nielsen approached us. They're like, this sounds really cool. If we use it for consumer research, of course, you know, and then now we're in medical records. We're talking about medical records, and you know, I went through a medical issue that required me to transfer my medical records, and that was a mess because I don't own them. And then I also found out while I'm not owning my medical records, someone else is making money on those medical records. So it's like, that's a $40 billion industry built on our data. There's all these other industries that we're planning on expanding into. And Josh and I never thought of that when we first started talking. So like the ride has been, it's been just everything you ever put into like the craziest roller coaster you could imagine. and the fact that we're still standing here, about to launch, working with you guys is you know, a blessing.
To that point, exactly. Like it's been, you know, we had to ride the waves of the space itself, right? Like 2021, you know, all you had to do was put crypto on anything, and it was easy to raise money, right? So we thought we were geniuses, right? Because we were able to raise all this money, but it was when everybody was raising money, you know. The earning our stripes came in 2022 and early 2023 when you couldn't raise a nickel. You know, where nothing was going your way, where crypto was dead, everybody was looking at other things, the rise of AI, like everything was going against us. And let's be honest, where most of the projects died. You know, a lot of projects that were raising money in 2020 and 21, they didn't really have a good product, so they didn't make it through. So I think the fact that we've taken so long is a real testament to survival of a good idea, that we've always managed to get by because we've always known that this moment where we're talking with you and where we're launching a token was going to come if we built something that people wanted to use. So we've always had our eye on the ball with that. To Adam's point, we didn't create a problem so that we could launch a token, right? We have a token that integrates with our product. It's always been more product focused than token focused.
Yeah, right. Okay, well, so I guess, you know, following on to that, you know, how would you explain? Well, it's kind of like so how would you explain MyStandard to someone who knows nothing about crypto? You know, why would they be drawn to this platform? And then, sort of conversely, you know, maybe talk about how you would explain it to someone in crypto, and like, how does that differ? Does it differ?
Josh takes the non-crypto one, and I'll take the crypto one.
So, of the two of us, I'm the non-crypto guy. I'm the recruiter guy. So I'll take that slightly. So, to the non-crypto user, what we do is you download our app, which are in both app stores. You put all your professional data in it. It goes behind a wall, can't be touched and seen. No one can know anything about it. IBM, who's on our board of directors, they need a software engineer in New York who makes $150K. You happen to be one of those people. You'll get a notification on your phone that says, IBM would like to talk to you about this opportunity. You're only getting a notification when someone is reaching out to you, when there's an opportunity to earn, to monetize. So it's not a social media site. There's no ads popping up. It's not intrusive in any way. You say yes. Oh, IBM. Yeah, you know what? 80% of people in their current jobs are open to other opportunities, even if they're happy. Yeah, I never thought about IBM, but why not? You say yes, you send your data over to IBM. IBM then, in the form of the MYST token, we actually pay you for access to that data. So now, instead of giving away your data for free, which you've been doing for 20 years, to LinkedIn, to Facebook, to Twitter, name the social media site, and them earning the opportunity, to them earning the money that you should be getting, you now control that money. You now get paid for your data, your most valuable asset, right? LinkedIn is, from my perspective and from most recruiters' perspective, is the Tinderization of recruiting. There's your picture, there's your name, there's where you work, there's where you went to school, all things that can be held against you. Because an average recruiter looks at a resume for 5 seconds. So they're making judgments, right? Since our structure is behind a blockchain and people don't get to see anything about you until after they paid for it, it's treated differently. Everybody has something at stake in this transaction. When you pay for something, you treat it differently than when you get it for free. Now, LinkedIn isn't free, but LinkedIn doesn't care how many hires you make, whether it's 1 hire or 1,000. They just want to renew a subscription, right? With our structure, that's taken out of the equation absolutely and totally and completely. So what we see as a typical process for someone is that their information will be sent to that recruiter. Their recruiter will then cross-reference their information with LinkedIn, but they're going to want to interview you because they've already paid you for that data. So they're not going to be as judgmental after they've paid for it. Just straight up facts. What also happens as a non-crypto user is the bias is taken out of it completely. So the likelihood that you're going to have a more diverse workforce is automatic, because if you're blind when you're seeing the person, you're only seeing their skills and experience, you're not being able to judge them, and you won't have a homogeneous work team. You'll have a very broad experience, a lot of different flavors involved. And that's really a key essential point here, right? Everybody wants that when they think about their workforce.
Yeah.
The simple pitch we came up to people is also like, just by having a MyStandard profile set up, you're never going to miss out on a better job. Anytime there's a better job out there that you're a fit for, you're going to get notified about it. You get to say yes. You get to say no if you want. If you say yes, you get paid.
Yeah.
Ultimately, what we're trying to do is get people to ditch the resume. The resume is your problem. The resume is 300 years old, right? When I see people on LinkedIn and they're complaining about recruiters complaining about how the font that they used on their LinkedIn profile or the font that they used on their resume didn't get them the job, that's not a good system. Right?
Yeah.
When you have to apply for when you have a job and you say that you see that 5,000 people applied for that job, you're never getting that job.
Yeah. It sounds really inefficient on both sides. And so
it is.
think sort of how you keep that data private and why that matters, I think probably dovetails more into the Web3 side of things,
Absolutely.
or concepts that resonate with a Web3 person. So maybe you could talk a little bit about that too.
Yeah, I agree with you there. But we also think that the timing is right for people to start caring about data privacy. Brexit and Facebook and that whole thing happened a few years ago, and Facebook was, caught red-handed selling the data to people they shouldn't have done. So every day we get a hack or a leak that you see come across that your password or username is exposed to. So people are kind of like, what if no one had access to any of this? And I think I hear more of that than I ever. They're to your point, they're very like Web3 principles, but there are it's starting to leach into normal society more than it has in
Yeah, absolutely, for sure.
But yeah, I think for crypto, there's a few things to hit on that are outside of kind of what Josh talked about. One is this is a use case. For everything that we invest in. It's a use case for Avalaunch because the Avalaunch token is front and center and being used for settlement. It's being used to transfer data. I mean, it's being used. It's integrated into this. No one's really going to know it. We abstract all that away, but it's a use case that brings to the forefront. Same with Chainlink. We're going to be working with Chainlink on using Chainlink CCIP to make the token cross-chain. But Avalaunch will be our utility layer. The only way to pull that off is with Chainlink CCIP. But the users can't know that. They can't do anything complex. It's got to be a click of the button. And the infra is now at a place where that can be the case. So it's a use case for the everyday person that brings them into Web3. It's a Trojan horse play that is going to bring in millions and millions of people into Web3 who never even know it, don't care. But the thing is after we get them in, it's like, hey, you're here now. Let's do all this other cool stuff. And so we have protocols approaching us like, hey, I like the idea of users. You've got the way you guys are on onboard users, but after they're there, is there a way that they could interact with our game? Or, like there's other things in Web3 that like we want to get them into the space. And, as I think all three of us are testament to, once you're in, you never leave. It's just kind of hard to get in.
Mm-hmm.
So if we make it really easy for people to get into Web3 and start to see all the benefits from it, we don't think we think that that's like a special place for MyStandard, given how easy the app is and how necessary it is. Like everybody wants to find a better job. Nobody likes to miss out on potentially better jobs.
Mm-hmm.
And everybody likes to get paid for stuff that they normally give away for free, like found money.
Yeah.
So those things will make it easy for like the non-Web3 person to get involved. And then we don't think they're ever going to leave the Web3 space once they're there.
Yeah.
But also I think from a Web3 perspective, like the most exciting thing for me, and like I try to invest in companies that did this, so we kind of built my dream company to invest in, is like we're getting a new, like right now in Web3, we have speculators as almost 100% of the pie of buying and selling. Speculators and traders, and that's it. There's not too many flywheels that are really going, right, that are pulling in revenues. Some of the flywheels are pulling in revenues from within the speculators, right, like trading fees and things like that.
Mm.
We have a new entree, like there's a new player in the field, which is like Web2 talent acquisition budgets. It's $130 billion of budget that is now going to be potentially buying the MyStandard token. So in the early days, the majority of the supply is with speculators and investors and whatever. But over time, that pie gets starting to get eaten up by corporations who are buying the token, because corporations cannot sell the token. They can only buy and use the token. So when a company comes in and says, wow, MyStandard looks neat. You guys have some users on here. We want to have exposure to it. We'll give you $1,000. We take their $1,000 and we buy the token off the market. We move the token from the market into a Fireblocks custodied wallet that we're custodying on behalf of the company. So they don't have to worry about their budgets being hacked, stolen, leaked. They don't have to report to the finance team they have new assets on hand that have value. None of that. They just log into their platform. They see how many data requests they have available to them. They don't know how many tokens they have. They don't care. They just see how many data requests can they make given the tokens they have. And that's all calculated on the back end. And then they make data requests to candidates. That's it. But there's no selling function at all. So if a company comes in on day one and gives us $1,000 and the MyStandard token happens to 1,000x and they have $1 million worth of tokens, they can't sell them. They can only use 5x bonus of those tokens for data requests. The rest would go uncirculating forever.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Now, just so a quick question about that. So from the enterprise side, the company side, when they come in and they pay you for those tokens, is it so abstracted away that they're not even really understanding that there's a token here and that it's just a service like they would normally use?
Exactly.
Or there are elements of it that would make them aware?
Right now, the goal is to make them unaware unless they ask questions.
Right.
I think we're not trying to hide it. It's actually kind of like in the presentation, like we talked to them about it, but like from there, it's a service contract to make data requests. And then we handle the incentive structure to get candidates to respond to your data requests. That's how the pitch goes to companies. They don't have to worry about, it's not like the company is paying the candidate. The company's essentially paying us, but we're passing through the value to the candidates through the token is the way to kind of look at it. And all that, companies just want to log in, make data requests and leave. Just like I want to open a Microsoft Word type of document and save it. No one cares how it works. They just want it to work. And so that's why we're not leaning into all the Web3 elements that make this possible.
Yeah.
The next release, version 1.2 of our apps, is going to have it so that candidates can click a button and have their work history validated by their previous employer. What that is doing is then their previous employer gets a request on their dashboard saying, Adam says he worked for you in this year with this job title. Is this true? The company validates it. We give them some tokens for doing that. And every time the candidate shares that information with another company, we give them a little piece. So they're incentivized to share that information, but they don't think I'm getting more tokens. They just think I'm getting some bonus data requests. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So we don't let them know, they don't care about the token part. It doesn't matter. And also the token price going up and down doesn't affect them negatively. If the price goes down from the time of purchase price, we actually discount the amount of data requests or the cost of the data requests so they can still make them. Mm-hmm. They're just worth a little bit less. And if the price of the token goes up from the time of purchase price, they get bonus data requests.
Right.
So they win either way.
Right.
So all these kind of magic. We just like, I think that's what I talked about the Avalaunch Summit presentation is this like common language is we just took like enterprise speak, I'm sorry, Web3 speak and turned it into things that enterprises care about.
Okay. Yeah, very cool. And so the ways that you are kind of smoothing out this UI experience for enterprise in order to kind of get them into crypto, I would imagine that there's a fair amount of that happening on the user side too, right?
Yeah, very much so.
But maybe less of it. Maybe you're exposing more there, and you have reasons for doing that. So maybe you could talk about some of the UI UX stuff, the features that you think are going to help smooth the adoption, and then also kind of turn people on to the power of this stuff if it's in there, if that's in your thinking. I mean.
Yeah. So there's really two elements that are hard for people to get to with the Web3, which is onboarding and on-ramping and off-ramping.
Okay.
And so to smooth those things out, to get candidates into the space, we're working with Web3 Auth. When you download our app, you simply click a Google or Apple logo. After clicking Google or Apple logo, a wallet is created for you. It's associated with your Google or Apple account. If you ever lose access to MyStandard, you just have to re-authenticate with your Google or Apple logo. And we're assuming that people aren't going to like forget their Google or Apple account. And Google and Apple both have so many like recovery options and security measures that it kind of like de-risks us a little bit from having to do a lot of that on our own. So you sign up, and that's like you're now a Web3 user and you don't even know it. Like that was all you had to do. And then for the off-ramp, we're going to be working with a company called Beamcash. So in the early days, anybody who receives data requests or network testing rewards that we send out to our people, they're just going to be kind of collecting the tokens. If you're a little more savvy of a Web3 user, you maybe could send them off to another wallet and trade them on an exchange. But the majority of our users are just going to hold those there. And then once we have an update to our app with Beamcash, you're going to actually be able to connect your bank account with Stripe and export MyStandard directly into your bank account for a fee. And so it'll make it so that as far as getting tokens, all you have to do is like create an account and then say yes to the data requests or say, yes, I want to receive rewards. And to off ramp, you just connect the bank account. So we're making it as smooth as you possibly can for like the non-Web3 native.
Okay. Yeah, cool. And so I think anyone listening, right, is probably thinking, at least in part, something along the lines of, okay, like this actually sounds really cool. I understand how this could disrupt or solve some of the issues in this industry, job recruitment that maybe they don't even know that much about. But I think anyone kind of paying closer attention might start to turn on to the implications of the kind of this idea of like the data reveal, high reveal, incentivized layer here that could likely apply across a number of different industries and sectors. And I think you alluded to it earlier, medical, these kinds of things. And so just speaking broadly, right, like where do you think this could go? Where do you see this technology applying to and being kind of as powerful or useful?
Yeah, I mean, the coolest part for Josh and I, and this is actually when I first talked to Josh, the thing that he was kind of like talking to me about was the idea of like verified credentials. And so there's a lot of like ID solutions out there and verified credential solutions, but they don't really have like a problem to solve. So we're first going to solve the talent acquisition problem. But the next phase is really cool when we start to work with Chainlink on Chainlink functions to start bringing in validated data on people from off-chain. So that'll be like when we're doing a university wants to mint a cryptographic immutable proof of your transcripts and your degree to your MyStandard profile. Then you could show that person, if I'm in front of you, I could prove to you that I went to the University of Illinois or wherever I went, or digitally I could send that to you and it's signed by the correct signers at the University of Illinois. It's authenticated by a Chainlink Oracle system that there's the right type of data in there, the right signers on there. It comes to my profile and I just have to say yes. Now the back end is Web3 to make sure that happens securely and it's all done correctly. But for the user experience, it's like, hey, all of a sudden I can authenticate that I truly went to the University of Illinois. And then your education block of data becomes worth a little bit more. So now I have higher fidelity data that I got authenticated. Now I get paid a little bit more when I share that information. And Josh, I mean, talk about the implications like that makes for recruiters when they have authenticated information.
100%. Imagine, so we know what this process of structure of interviewing is right now, right? You connect with somebody, you go through the interview process, you get to the end of the interview, and what do they say? Okay, we'd like to make you an offer, but what do we have to do? We have to do a background check, right? The background check industry is like a $5 billion a year industry. And all it consists of is a company that sits there. Some 23-year-old kid picks up the phone and says, "Did Josh go to the University of Arizona?" Yes, he did. Great. Thank you. Cancer Treatment Centers of America is one of our initial investors. Okay. And 60% of their nursing candidates get blown out of the process after the interview's over, after the offer's been made. Why? Their license is out of date. It's out of state. It's in the wrong discipline. All of these different factors. So imagine if at the very beginning of the process of the interview, you knew this person worked where they say they worked, that they did the job they say they did, and that they have proof of all of their degrees and diplomas. The background check is done before the interview even starts. You don't even get an interview unless you meet this criteria, because you won't appear in the system and because you won't match up, right? So if IBM is looking, saying we need somebody who has a degree in this particular discipline and they had to work at this company or they had to have this skill set, only those people will appear in the searches. So by the time they see them, the background check is complete. So when you get through the interview process to the offer, that candidate can start right away. There's not a 3-week lag between when they finish the interview and when they start. There isn't the possibility that they aren't who they say they are, because it's all been proven.
Yeah.
That makes sense. That's the biggest time saver of all, and it works. It's a working idea, and it's amazing that we've gotten as far as a society as we have in the broken structure that we have right now.
Mark, I had a funny thing. I went to my daughter's take your dad to work day thing.
Nice.
And then I pitched the kids on data sovereignty. But the way I did it is I had a kid come up to the front of the room.
Before you tell this story, how old are these kids?
They were 9.
Okay, a little early, but
8 or 9.
appreciate it. Yeah.
I know, I love it, right? I just got a whole class of Web3 users. But what I did is I asked one of the kids. I was like, "Hey, just raise your hand." And they'll raise their hand. I chose one, and I was like, "What's your name?" She goes, "Sally." Like, "Okay, Sally, prove it. Prove your name is Sally." And she was like, kind of looked around and laughed. And I was like, how would you prove your name is Sally? And she's like, "I don't know." And the kid right there, "Get the birth certificate." I was like, "All right, get a birth certificate or an ID that's got to be issued by somebody. All right, Sally, go get it." She's like, "I can't go home right now and get it." And they kind of laughed, it was kind of fun. And I was like, "See, but you can't prove that to me right now in front of me. Like, you have to go somewhere else and someone has to prove it about you. There's no way for you to prove that your name is Sally right in front of me." That's kind of like, even with a phone, you can't do that today. And I was like, "All right, Sally, what's something you're good at?" She's like, "Playing soccer." I was like, "All right, Sally, prove it." And she's like, "Well, do you have a soccer ball?" I was like, "No." I was like, "Well, how do you know you're good at soccer?" She's like, "Well, I won, my team won a competition." And I was like, "All right, how would you prove that?" I kind of went down that road. Like, there is no way for us to prove things about ourselves. And what happened to Josh and I when we were doing this company 2 years ago, some dude wanted to do fundraising for us, and we were bringing him on.
Yeah.
And he lied about going to Harvard. Find out from somebody else. And it's like we're the company trying to solve the problem that we're the, we were in the problem. So this idea that we don't have verified credentials and it's really hard to find a way to issue them. We're kind of solving by saying, let's issue a free service to universities or whoever, DMVs, whatever. You just put in someone's MyStandard ID number. They don't even have to put your name in. It's like a license plate for who you are on the platform. And then they can verify an aspect about you, and then you'll forever be able to prove something. Like, I'm never not going to go to Bradley University. So why do I have to keep proving that about myself? So it's really interesting that we haven't solved this problem as a society. I know there's a lot of blockchain ID solutions out there. We're not that, but we think we might end up being that. Like, going through this idea of being a black hole for data on who you are as a person.
Yeah, it's very, very cool. I mean, we've dealt with and interacted with some of those solutions, having KYC in the platform and this kind of thing. And safe to say that stuff just kind of isn't there yet. And so we would be anxious, to see better answers there and better solutions.
Cool.
One of the things I'm thinking about. Oh, sorry, go ahead.
No, I was going to say I could go into a third possible solution where we talk about advertising, right? So as you can tell, I'm into sneakers, right? So there's no reason why we couldn't have an AI agent reach out to me and say, "Hey, you've been able to monetize all this professional data. What else, sir? Who are you as a person? What else are you into?" Well, I'm into. Can you hear me?
You were a little spotty for a second, but I think you're back. I think you were spotty for a second, but I think you're okay now.
Okay, great. How many sneakers do you buy in a year? What's your average price point? What brands do you buy? Right? All of those things. They come together. And I can then reach out to Nike and be like, hey, I've got 20,000 people on this platform who call themselves sneakerheads. Would you be interested in reaching out to them to advertise to them directly? Sure. Nike then reaches out to you. You get a notification on your phone. It says Nike would like to show you this ad. We'll give you 5 tokens for that ad. You watch the ad. At the end of the ad, Nike says, thank you for watching. Here's your tokens. Today and today only, you can buy these sneakers for 20% off and take your tokens and send your tokens back to Nike because you now can purchase the sneakers right on the platform. There's no reason in the world you couldn't have that, to Adam's point, the flywheel, to everything about you. You're a person. This could be the central location for all of your personal data and professional data. There's no reason why that can't happen.
Yeah. And I think you probably you hit on it right there, and that was sort of kind of like what I was driving at, and hoping to kind of hear from you guys and let people know about is the bigger implications here. But to start, right, we're talking about recruitment. We're talking about a LinkedIn competitor. I don't know if you guys look at it that way. Maybe you could clarify if I got that wrong. But maybe we could just talk about a little bit about how you guys think about penetrating that very large market or incentivizing early users. I mean, the system is designed is good and sound, and the technology and the ideas are there. But getting that in front of people is obviously kind of the next thing, and get the input going. And so, what are you guys working on there?
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of things. So that's a lot to unpack.
I'm sure.
But the short answer is I built two-sided marketplaces in my previous life. I was with Career Builder during the Career Builder time when we were overtaking Monster and growing fast. I know that the thing that I learned from going through that is you don't want to try to do too much at once. You want to focus on one side of the market, do a really good job on it, get some momentum there, and then go to the other side market and tell everybody about it. And then you kind of bounce between the sides. So our first forays, I mean, obviously anybody can sign up for the platform. We do talk about it, et cetera, but we're really trying to get companies and launch partners going to get good jobs on the site and very credible companies using our token to find talent. We have 4 so far. There's like 8 or 10 in the pipeline. And so we could sponsor their first few data requests. They don't have to give us cash on the first end. We have, part of our tokenomics is to have like an ability to bootstrap that early usage of the platform for companies. And so we really just want to be able to advertise like, hey, XYZ companies on the platform, and we haven't announced them yet, so I'm not saying any names yet. But we have some good brands on there that are like known brands outside of Web3 who are interested and excited about being launch partners with us. Hey, this company is now using the MyStandard token to find talent. Here are the jobs they're looking for. And then putting out that type of media will kind of like, create a nice buzz for the Web3 space. So like, hey, there's these logos that are just being sucked in and added on to the MyStandard portfolio. They're going to like to see that. And then after we have success there, then it'll help us go to the other side of the marketplace and say, hey, look at all these companies, look at all these jobs, get on this platform today. We're going to be doing network testing rewards after about 3 months. We're going to be doing another set of network testing rewards 3 months later that are even worth a little bit more. That allows us to test out all the different types of like filters, all the different types of how deep people's profiles are, and kind of reward people for being like an active, good quality user on the platform. And so, kind of word will spread on that. We'll be doing traditional marketing. So I know that crypto companies like when companies do marketing. Well, that's like, we're a consumer brand. So there's going to be the banners to billboards, magazines, like that whole thing is going to be part of it. Obviously, it's a black hole for spend. So it's going to be very poignant and very particular about where we go. And then we're going to leverage all these partnerships that we've been creating all these years. I mean, a lot of people are really excited about what we're doing, and they want to talk about it freely. Chainlink's doing some co-marketing with us. That'll be out later this month. Avalaunch is doing marketing with us. That'll be out next week. We're doing, so leveraging these relationships, I think is another key part of it. Now, one thing that's very interesting, and I think I want Josh to talk about a little more, is like how we're going to go after specific types of candidates, and then kind of branch out from there.
Mm-hmm. So I'll give you a good example. And again, this is, one conversation of many. I did a podcast a couple weeks ago, and one of the one of the topics that came up was sort of underserved communities, right? Like how there's these lots of jobs out there that people don't have LinkedIn profiles. And one of those aspects is trucking, the trucking business. It's one of the highest turnover businesses that there is. And when you think of hiring a trucker, how do you think of it? You're behind the truck and then a little thing on the back of the truck says, call this number if you want a job here, right? It's the most antiquated system there is. So a gentleman reached out to me because of the podcast and was like, I am the Indeed of truck driving. I have 500,000 truck drivers in my network, and I get them what we do all day long. I was like, that's amazing. So we can tap into networked groups that are very industry specific to their needs, right? Trucking is just a perfect example of that. The opportunity to be the cool Web3 company that's servicing truck drivers and to have a captive audience of 500,000 truck drivers at my disposal, I can reach out to every trucking company in the world, Amazon included, and say, hey, we have the network. Would you be interested in reaching out to these people directly? Same flywheel effect. So we're going to attack specific, user groups at high levels to be able to intercept their networks, because now what you're creating for them is a new way to monetize. So since it's a crypto, we can, break off little pieces for introductions, right? So they can create an entire silo of revenue that they never had access to before.
Yeah, awesome. It was actually something I was kind of thinking about, because when you start talking about, for whatever reason, maybe this is just sort of my bias, when I start thinking about LinkedIn and recruiting, I just automatically start thinking about tech jobs and
Exactly.
C-level stuff, and I don't know why I do that. So it's really actually pretty nice to hear.
You do that because that's what it's designed for, because those are, white collar jobs, and that's what it's for. So I see us at both ends of the spectrum. Let me give you the argument on the other side. You've got a lot of C-level people who have LinkedIn profiles. They turn off all their notifications. They don't want to be bothered by every recruiter because they're tired of it, right? They're a CFO at a Fortune 500 company.
Yeah.
Imagine this. They download the app and they get a notification on their phone that company X wants to give them $1,000 for access to their data.
Mm-hmm.
What are they going to do?
Yeah.
Wow, somebody's willing to pay me $1,000 for access to my data. So if you're the company that's doing that, right, the way you usually would find a CFO is through retained search with like one of the big retained search firms, and you're paying hundreds of thousands of dollars for that search. So in this instance, if you wanted to get 5 CFO candidates, you're spending $5,000. Each one of those candidates is going to say yes because, oh my God, they're willing to give me $1,000 and it's enough money for me to say yes. You're formulating 5 relationships with 5 good CFOs. So even if you don't hire 4 of them and you only hire 1, you now have in your database 4 high quality CFOs for the future. And you've got a perpetual story, right? You now have a relationship with them. Hey, I'm Tom. I'm from IBM. Remember, we gave you $1,000 for your, oh, of course. You've now created a relationship. So it works on both ends of the spectrum, right? All of these, both sides I would consider underserved, because if you're probably missing out on a lot of different opportunities because you don't want to hear from them. You don't want to hear about it, right? You don't want to hear from these people. So now it only becomes incentivized for you to say yes, for you to do so. So we can concentrate on both ends of the spectrum and just absolutely kill it, because both sides have never really had that level of experience, have had that kind of one-on-one touch.
Right. And I think, it sounds expensive, right? But I think the analysis there is, would you rather have 10 super high quality candidates, signal to noise, right? 10 super high quality candidates, or like 50 that are just garbage and that you would never talk to, kind of
100%. If you can drop the number of resumes that you have to look at from 5,000 to 50, and you knew that all 50 of those were good, that's the biggest time saver in the world. That's the biggest win of all, right? Because that's what every good recruiter when you work inside as a recruiter, your client is in-house. They don't care where you find the candidate. They aren't asking you, where did you find this guy? All they want to know is, this guy qualified? Is he ready to go? Is he interested in the opportunity? Can I interview him? Right? So your job is to simplify the process so that that's what you end up with. And if you look like a rock star to your internal client, you've got a lot of job security, number one, but also you're doing them a big favor. You're doing the company a big favor. You're producing. You're actually making a difference, as opposed to literally just sitting on LinkedIn No, 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 no. That is a waste of time. And recruiters' relationships job is to have relationships with people, not to spend their time sifting through crap.
Okay. So, one of the things I think makes sense to talk about, since we are doing this interview to cover the project for the Avalaunch community and the token sale happening on that platform, is the token, but kind of more specifically, the economics and the incentivization structures and how the value kind of moves around the platform and the utility. I think people certainly want to understand that, and I also think that you guys have some interesting ideas there that will work well and that you kind of haven't seen before in Web3. And so I don't know where you want to take that, but just kind of have at it.
Yeah. No, I've been asked this question a lot, so it's fine. I think that we've built every token ultimately wants to get sold in Web3, right? Like everything it always ends up with a selling point. I think what we've built here is the most complicated mousetrap so that the token could get sold, but it has so many other places it can go that selling is not always its final destination. If a company comes in and buys the MyStandard token because they want to make data requests on the platform, they can send them to candidates. They can't sell them. That alone kind of creates this disjointed buy to sell pressure. Some of those tokens that they bought are going to become completely unsellable, which will actually create a deflationary mechanism on the marketplace. At the same time that candidates receive tokens, yeah, they might want to sell them, but maybe they don't. We're going to have a staking mechanism which will grant some soft governance voting rights for both sides, different votes for different parties for different sides of the marketplace. Maybe they just want to stake them and get them. But because they're Web2 audiences, they're just going to get like a 6% APY. It's nothing crazy in the Web3 space. It's not going to inflate the marketplace to some obscene amount, but that's better than anything they're going to find in a bank. So they're going to think, well, this is better than my bank. Maybe I just want to keep the tokens and stake. So we'll come up with terminology that makes sense for these people that isn't interesting. But point being, now there's another mousetrap, right? There's another place where the token might get sucked into. So it's not just selling. Oh, maybe I now want to find a new job. So there's going to be a mechanism to actually go and court an employer that you really want to work for. Like I really want to work for Amazon. There's going to be a token sync, which essentially is you sending tokens to Amazon. And you're sponsoring your own application to Amazon. So they don't have to pay you for that candidate profile. There's going to be another one called Spotlight, where you make yourself known to the entire marketplace that I'm now in the market. Every single company who's recently looked for you, ever looked for somebody like you, gets a notification on dashboard. Adam's available. He's a good fit for one of your previous jobs or something that's open right now. In order to do Spotlight, you have to put up collateral. It's just another token sync. So there's all these like interesting mechanisms where the token moves from candidate to employer, from employer to candidate, and it has nothing to do with selling. It's true utility of the token, but at the end of the day, if somebody wants to sell, that option is available to them. So giving people like, here's some really cool things you could do with the token: buy goods and services, court employers, find a new job, and and a whole whiteboard of ideas we all had. Like giving people other things they can do with the tokens outside of just selling them is going to, once again, create the sort of like place where the tokens are just kind of swirling around and not just always finding the market. And I think that's just a very unique thing about having a platform that provides, various utilities to people and companies, which we just haven't seen in Web3. So think about as we grow now. All right, MyStandard is right now this. We're a talent acquisition company with 4 types of data. Next thing you know, we're a talent acquisition company with 8 types of data. So it sucks up a little bit more value, even more tokens off the market. More companies are joining the platform. So now even more tokens are being purchased by companies, which they can't be sold. And now MyStandard moves into a new industry. We just land and expand in medical records. You know what I mean? There's a whole new set of companies out there that are going to be interested in tapping into fine-tuned medical records from specific people. They're buying our token. You know what I mean? Like as we expand into new industries, new use cases, and more data is being sucked into people's profiles, allowing us to move into new industries, it really kind of becomes a behemoth. And so just a talent acquisition though, I know we're talking about we talk about all the other stuff we want to do. Talent acquisition is a $130 billion industry. So if that's every year, the companies spend about $130 billion every year from their Web2 budgets on talent acquisition services. They spend about 15 of that on LinkedIn. So let's say we become 1/10 as big as LinkedIn, a $1.5 billion talent acquisition company, which would make us probably top 100. Okay, so that's not even like dominating. It's just doing okay. I mean, it's doing great. It's doing great. Don't get me wrong, but we're not like dominating the industry at that point.
Mm-hmm.
That's $1.5 billion of buy pressure on the token every year. Think of that. That's like, now we're talking, if find a protocol that has a $1.5 billion of single-sided buy pressure every year, then you're talking like I don't know, you're probably talking one of the top 10s or top 20s or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
That's just one industry. So then you start expanding into more industries and more industries. There's $1.3 trillion of data abuse out there that we're going after ultimately. So let's say in 10 years, MyStandard actually achieves this vision, 95% of our supply is in the hands of companies using it.
Okay.
It's a completely different world than what we have, in the early days. So, it's just like, I'm a Chainlink Marine because I saw the vision of where it was going and I bought it early and I'm going to hold it forever. Doesn't matter. Chainlink can go, my Chainlink is in cold storage in a bank vault. I can't even sell if I wanted to. We go to $500 today. I can't even touch it. Like, I'm holding that thing for 10 years, no matter what. And I think that's how a lot of people who are coming across this vision of what Josh and I have put together we have an amazing team too, but what we've put together here is something that if you believe in this like idea that blockchain is going to take over the world, and like this is, you kind of see that vision of where we're going, these token things happening and everything, then, you can kind of see how it all plays out. Does that give a good answer to how?
Yeah, absolutely. Listen, it's this is obviously a part of this thing, and kind of depending who you are and how you think about it, it's either a big part or a small part. But regardless, all of this stuff works together. All of these components are necessary. When you're thinking about the incentivization and the user behavior and sort of game theory that's actually kind of built into the platform, there's a ton we didn't get to here today. I mean, I literally have probably an hour worth of other questions, and so I would kind of encourage anyone who's curious about this stuff to dig deeper and kind of do a little bit more of their own research, because these guys have thought a lot about this. And there's just also other interesting things that are achievements of the project, enterprise stuff that you guys have been able to manage, partnerships, people involved in the project that are helping you. There's just a ton of really, really great stuff that we just didn't even get to today. I kind of want to respect everyone's time. So we'll sort of wrap it up here, I think, unless, there is just other stuff that you guys really want to talk about, or that we missed that you think is important. Because I know there's a ton.
Yeah. I mean, I want to give a shout out to the team, partnerships, the people involved in this project to get it to this point. Investment wise, Ava Labs, like I said, kind of kicked us into gear, and they've invested in us 3 times now. So they've continued to support us when we needed them to, helping us build, they got their legal with our team to talk about legal structure. We're a Delaware seat company. So we're launching a token in the United States, based in the United States, which the incoming administration says that they're going to favorably look at those types of tokens and those companies to help build crypto in the US. So that's also something that is going to be a big advantage to us, which wasn't until just a few weeks ago. Ava Labs, Winklevoss Capital, Tyler and Cameron are supporters of what we're creating. Obviously, they'll give us good access to like Gemini and things like that in the future. But more importantly, these guys helped build some of the biggest companies in Web3. So obviously, having their support is great for us. Gangels came on board to help us create a fair hiring marketplace for LGBTQ communities. They really like the fair hiring marketplace that Josh talked about earlier. And then we got Moonboots DAO. They invested in us early. And then 3.0, which is a heavy Avalaunch ecosystem VC that invested in us. We have good backing that have kind of like always supported us and always kind of pushed us along when we needed it. And then, we have a really good board of directors. Chainlink God is one of the biggest Chainlink influencers, came on board to help us advise on how to build this company very early when we came out. He actually doxed us before he doxed publicly. So that was great to have him behind us. And that obviously brought us into Chainlink folds. All the things we're building with Chainlink, and we'll be building a Chainlink. You'll be able to read about them in a few weeks when they post it. That's all kind of came from that relationship that we fostered with him very early. And so we're just kind of like, we just feel like we're always swirling around giants with greats in the industry, people who've gone through what we've been through. Dave from Avalaunch has been someone who's helped us with understanding how to launch a token properly. That's going to make all sorts of mistakes really quickly. And he, having the right people, the right advisors around us is going to, is a huge, Josh and I are forever appreciative of all these people and companies I mentioned because they've done it before. So that's just the one thing is, this is a special project for us. It's not just like a throw it up in the bull run, Bitcoin's at 100K, let's put out a token sort of thing. It's been a long road to get here, working with the SEC, working with those companies I mentioned, and now we're ready.
Yeah. Yep, for sure. We are big fans of what you guys are doing. I know you have a good relationship with David, and we've been kind of working through this for a long time now.
That's like 3 years ago, the first time.
Yeah. And that doesn't always happen that way. It happens that way for us most of the time because that's the way we like to do it, and that's the way we really kind of understand projects and try and help and bring value, like David's done with you guys. I think it's great. Really, really excited to have you guys on the platform and have our community engage with you guys. So really, thank you for letting us try and help you and be a part of our community, and certainly for your time here today.
You guys got a great brand at the summit. Everyone was part of your community. Everyone I talked to about, launching a token, but probably going to work with Avalaunch. They were like, oh yeah, I'm a staker, something. So you guys have a great brand you've built up.
Right on. Well, we love that. We certainly tried to do our best. And when it comes to Avalaunch, we have a really, really great community that really believes in this stuff. And so when that aligns, it really, really works well. Thanks again for your time. And we will certainly do this again soon. You guys are going to have a lot of really exciting stuff coming up. I think you're going to have a lot of traction, a lot of new things to talk about. And we like to stay engaged and stay involved. So we'll certainly do this at some point, beginning of next year or something. We'll have you back on and we'll see how everything went.
Awesome. Looking forward to it.
Okay.
Thank you for your time, Mark.
Yeah, right on. Thank you. All right. Talk to you soon.
Take care.
Okay.